I think Indiana's been a team that's been struggling with expectations and not really being able to fill those shoes heading into this year. And I think a lot of it rode on Michael Penix. And I thought today he threw a couple balls, should have been caught, could have been some big explosive plays. I thought he settled in a little more than he looked the previous two games, but still he's a shell of what he was last year in terms of confidence and how he was playing, in my opinion. But ultimately, I think looking at it, Indiana looked kind of like what we saw last year. So I think they're going to really start trying to push to try and get back to that and just finish strong and hope they make a pinstripe bowl or something like that. With regards to Cincinnati,
top rope he comes from, man. Top rope hack sits on.
Cincinnati has started really slow, and that concerns me when you start talking about going up against teams like in Alabama, like a Florida, like a Penn State, like someone who's not going to let you start slow
and come dogging back
and be able to catch up. Like if you give me a 5-yard head start, I'm turning that into 10 really quick. Yep. And I think that's where you're going to start trying. That's where the lack of strength of schedule for Cincinnati, in my opinion, and the ability to have those things, like they're going to have to put a statement on Notre Dame next week. They got Notre Dame next week, correct?
Yeah.
They're going to have to put a big – 2 weeks.
Next week.
Notre
Dame's got Wisconsin 2 weeks.
They're gonna have to put a big stamp on that game, in my opinion, to start selling me to saying, okay, maybe we can see that happen. But ultimately, great win for them against a team that, though they've had some struggles early in the year, still had a lot of confidence going into this season.
Bryce, your boys beat a Big Ten team, and not a little brother program like Hack was saying. The floor in the Big Ten is coming up. The heavyweights are fighting like heavyweights, and Indiana's somewhere in between. They went on the road. They showed a lot today. I know you're going to tell us what you loved about their performance, and there you go with your boy Desmond Ridder, like just a complete veteran effort today, because it wasn't his best football, but he guided them back. How far or does this push Cincinnati up, and what do we learn about them nationally? Do we learn anything new about them nationally after beating a strong Hoosier program?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think, Hack made a lot of great points. Look, you guys got to remember, this is the same team that lost by 3 points to Georgia last year. So we're not talking about, kind of a Cinderella team, whereas I feel like a lot of the hype on Indiana was from last year. So, what we learned, I think, is just the same thing that, Cincinnati and their locker room learned, is that, no, we can play. We can be gritty. Was this a great win? In terms of flawless execution, not a chance. I think there's a lot of things that they did what they needed to do, right? I'm a golfer. I like to golf. One of the best quotes I've heard is your worst day better than someone's best day? Because that's what's ultimately going to, put you on the scoreboard.
Is that how many teams can Cincinnati point to in the top 10 or 12, or you as their de facto ambassador? How many teams can Cincinnati point to in the top 10 or 12 that their C-plus day could get one of those teams, or a B- effort, or a B effort?
Not many. I really don't think many. And that's the thing. They have to be able to bring their A game, because when they do bring their A game, then they take Georgia 24-21 like they did last year. I mean, that game was a slugfest. In a game where they're scoring, or really in a conference where they're scoring 50 points a game, can they go 24-21 and play with an SEC team? Yeah, they can. And so that's the thing about this team that I like, and what Luke Fickell's brought to that locker room is there is a belief in what they can do. So this was a statement win for them. It's not 2020 anymore. This is 2021. We can go do it in a Big Ten, atmosphere, Big Ten arena and play. And so, they're going to have Notre Dame coming up.
I'm going to challenge you on this, Bryce. And Hack, I want you to either challenge it or co-sign it, either way. But they got Notre Dame next week. They're going to –
2 weeks.
Okay.
They got a bye week and then 2 weeks.
They're going to pack it up. They got 2 weeks to prepare. What can they take to Notre Dame and they can count on? For instance, when Georgia travels, they know they can unpack their defense, and they're out there going. Ohio State knows they can unpack their offense. They're out there going. Michigan State, we're learning now, can unpack that run game and that front offensive line at front. They know they can count on that. Cincinnati, we've been watching that, and Hack pointed this out when we very first started. They start fights real slow. They'll catch a couple jabs early. Slow. It takes them a while. This is their best opportunity to make a statement. What can they unpack at Notre Dame in 2 weeks and count on? And then what do they need to hustle up on in 2 weeks, and so they can hang their hat on something else? What's the next one?
Yeah, no. Look, I think this offense completely runs through 9, right? Desmond Ridder is their guy. So you have to put him in positions to be successful early. Get that guy in the mix, running, tossing it on the edge, quick throws. Man, he's so good at second level throws. And that was what was fun, watching him today, kind of from the start to finish. He's got really good, and we always did this, we were training George over the soccer goal, right? Throwing those balls over the soccer goal and putting them on a line down. Like he is really, really good at that. You saw his little fade toss in the end zone today to his man Pierce. So there's a lot of things that he does really well. Yep. And he's a 3-year starter. So you have to run through him. The other thing that I think is really interesting, Jerome Ford is their guy from Alabama, transferred from Alabama, came in 2 years ago, really fits in that system well. 66 yards on the ground a day with 2 touchdowns, but that they can punch you in the mouth too. They can go get the hard-earned yards that they need to. And then their defense can swarm. So I think they have to understand that they need to make a 12-round fight a 3-round fight. They need it not to overexert themselves, but what they need to do is not wait till the 3rd and 4th quarter to get going, because they did that last week as well.
100%
out of the gate, man. Out of the gate. Look, Fickle, bring in Desmond to your office. Say, hey, what do you like? What do you want to run?
And Hack.
They need to take the fight to him.
Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, they need to take the fight to him. They can't be passive. They can't. They can't feel it out, because if you feel it out with a Georgia's going to run with it. If you feel it out with a Penn State's going to be like, all right, dude, you throw me one, give us a short field, we'll turn it into 7, and we're going to keep moving.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just, to me, it's a mentality. To me, I think you make a great point about trying to figure out what Desmond. I mean, they should know what Desmond does well by now, and they should be doing this from the jump. But there's always time for reflection, and there's always time for trying to figure out what that may be this year, because it is going to differ. It is not 2022, 2020. It's 2021.
Yeah.
There's, personnel changes. There's different things that influence that. So
here's for both of you, and you guys watch football more than anybody, you understand what's going to happen when we get into December and the season turns into a campaign. My 10-1 is stronger than your 10-1. My 11-0 is stronger than their 11-0. The SEC is going to say our 5th best team can beat Cincinnati. So here you are. Cincinnati now has a great opportunity. They get 2 Power 5 teams in September. Indiana on the road. Go in, beat them. Now they get a chance to turn around. You get the break. Next week. Turn around and go play Notre Dame. Bryce, you said it. Turn that 12 rounds into a 3-round fight. Put some up on the board and make them play from behind, lay your ears back if they can do it. Up front in the trenches, they're going to have to show they can go another 12 rounds with a Power 5 team. And then the rest of it is a group of 5 and they drive on out of there. But the case is going to be made against them. When, say, a Florida runs it out, A&M's going to have maybe a loss and they'll run it out. And they're going to turn around. There's the whole state of Ohio, or the southern part outside of Ohio State, is going to be making a case about the Bearcats. They're going to have to show against Notre Dame, we have the type of mettle that we deserve to be in the playoffs. Is that thinking correct, or do you think we're past that? Hack, Bryce? Or are they still held to that group of 5 standard?
It's part of the nature. You just explained it beautifully and perfectly. That is what it is. You can't unpack it any other way, because at the end of the day, when you do look at a team that's in the SEC that is a 1-loss team, or even a 2-loss team in the SEC, where they're playing Alabama, Florida, and then you flip over to the West. You got Arkansas, which Bryce talks about, who's been playing really well right now. It's fifth best team.
Yep.
Like I'd throw Arkansas out there against Cincinnati tomorrow and see what happens. You know what I think? That'd be a game where I'd be like, I'd circle it and I'd be like, I'm going to tune in and watch this.
Right.
LSU. You got there's so many variables with that, and it goes back to, like I said, consistency specifically in that conference. And then I think you can still make the argument with the Big Ten East right now in terms of, like, I'd be curious to see a Cincinnati, Michigan State. You know what I mean? Even a Cincinnati, Maryland. The way Maryland's been playing offensively right now, hot as heck. They can score against anybody. They can run it up.
Fighting Mike Loxley's.
But that's a team where if you let them punch you in the mouth, you never know what happens. So I mean, I think this Notre Dame game is massive for them. They gotta put something on it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Indiana, it's got to be.
It'd almost be interesting if they had like a field of 12.
I'll drink to that
instead of a field of 4 teams, because wouldn't it be great to see a Cincinnati play a one-loss A&M or a one-loss Michigan or a one because that's
UCLA
or an undefeated UCLA? I think it's interesting.
Let's go right to it. Just a quick reminder. While we're on this, we want your questions. Questions are coming in right now. We're going to pop them up and start chopping through them. We want your questions. The Field of 12, College Football After Dark Show. Bryce Petty, there is going to be a team, theoretically, what a conundrum of a statement, that at the end of the season is going to say, look, we lost to Bama and Georgia and beat everybody else in the SEC. Cincinnati, they go to Notre Dame, they get a win, they get pushed to the brink, and then they go and do everything else they're supposed to do. They got to make a statement because schools and programs will be able to turn around and say that. How do they ward that off? How do they battle that off?
Yeah, well, internally, I think that Luke needs to get in there, on Monday or Tuesday and say, guys, why are we playing to try and be perfect? They're almost playing not to lose instead of stepping on somebody's throat. And I know that's aggressive, but at the same time, that's what you have to do. The mentality is okay. 2020, we snuck up on people. People didn't know who we were. We didn't know who we were. And we just damn, we're pretty dang good. We held, again, not to bring up the Georgia game, but it's 24-21 against dogs, literally. Right. So the idea is that, man, internally that leadership, man, I saw it on, and this is what I loved about Desmond Ridder today, because they zoomed in on the series where he threw the pick. There was miscommunication up front. They had a loop around and ended up kind of throwing off his back foot, still hit the guy in the hands, tip, but was a pick. But the play before looked like the guy was supposed to have an out cut, didn't. Desmond's all up in his face. And I love seeing that. So they need to have that. Who is that guy outside of 9 that's going to be that guy for that team? On the defensive side of the ball, on the offensive side of the ball, they had a 99-yard kick return today. That kind of stuff is how you get out of games. Again, is your worst stuff better than somebody else's best stuff? But at the same time, you can't always count on a 99-yard kick return. You can't always count on somebody to throw 3 pretty bad picks to you.